Friends, how are you tonight? Happy Tuesday. It is appropriate that we're talking about personal growth tonight because, man, I feel like I need some. Hold on. Hold on. There's always two. Okay. Here is what is so interesting is I am doing my best to, okay, here's what I think you should know. It is so easy to step into something and, no, nice, sweet girl. Best. Oops, nope, don't want to hear myself. Hold on a second. That was like Inception. I was just trying to read those comments. Tiffany, I hope you join us tomorrow. Okay, here's what I'm going to say. I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. We made a deliberate decision to start broadcasting here the beginning of this year. Very thought out and prayerful decision. And there are times that we take steps that I'm like, was that the right move? Here's the thing. It seems like sometimes I think when we're on the cusp of things that are good, that they feel hard. And it's just where I am right now. If I'm being 100% honest, I feel like we are on the cusp of something great and something that we feel very called to do, but that doesn't mean that it's not hard. And so I want to encourage you tonight that if there is something that you are on the cusp of, there is something that you are stepping into that feels hard, or something you feel called to that feels hard, or something that you are challenging yourself to do that feels hard, it's probably right where you're supposed to be, right? We talk about resistance all the time, and man, it comes after us. And I'm just going to tell you that I have notes tonight that I'm not going to read because I'm kind of lit up about something. So I'll get there. But before that, man, I want to share a few things with you. So first of all, welcome to the dreaming table. This is my literal dining room table. I'm glad that you are here. We, for years, have been doing a Tuesday night training live on Facebook. And it was very much geared towards building up Scentsy businesses. And not that we are not about that, we're fully about that. But we are also fully about empowering and equipping all people. And that's what we're here to do tonight. I have some things on my heart that I want to share with you about personal growth and about leadership and about growing and changing. And I have more than just tips and tricks that I want you to know in here. I want you to understand what it was that propelled us in business, what it is that continues to keep us on fire about our business, and how that relates to you and what that looks like in your life, because all of those things matter so much. So first of all, thanks for joining us. My name is Allison Dahlke, and we have spent the past 11 years growing a business from home. 7 of those years, Brian has been home with me, and that has made for a very interesting dynamic and a very challenging, oftentimes, in a hard marriage and time and all the things. And through all of that, through growing this business, through learning how to love it in all seasons of it and learning how to do it well, we've learned a lot of things, and all of those things we want to teach you. So tonight we're talking about growth and why it matters, and how when you feel stuck and when you are stuck, it is often because your growth has stalled. So I'm really, really glad you're here. I'd love to know where you're from. I'd love to know if this is your first time watching. Welcome to our table. The reason, for one, we changed our name and we came to the table is because we believe that around the table is where real relationship happens. And I know that you are virtually out there and we are virtually in here, but you are at our table, and that is meaningful and important to me. So I'm glad that you're here, and I cannot wait to talk. Like I said before, oh, this is my husband, Brian.
What's up, guys?
Our colors kind of clash tonight, baby.
Oh.
It's fine. Oh, I do like the shirt you have on. Oh, hi. Oh, there you go.
Superman. I just stepped on my phone.
Oh, fix your hair. Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. That's better. So, hi, Nicole from Western Australia. I'm so glad that you're here. Hi, Sarah.
What's up, guys?
So glad y'all are joining us tonight. Kim from Columbus, Georgia. Hi, Allison. Allison, I feel like we talk a lot on Instagram, don't we? We do. Oh, I'm so glad to see you. April, hi, love. I really missed your face. Rain is here. So glad to see y'all. Hi, Shannon. Random, what's up?
Which one? Are you looking at this one or this one?
I'm looking at that one because
Okay.
it's more live. This one doesn't update that much. That's why I have to pull the other one
Gotcha.
out.
What's up, guys? So sorry, I was putting kids to bed. Someone got to do it.
Y'all, I'm having this one of those days where I kind of mentioned this when I first got on.
Hi, Sandra.
When you step into something, or when you're, like I said, when you're on the cusp of this like not new thing, but when you're on the cusp of growing and changing, I feel like sometimes it gets really hard. And sometimes there are things that come at you that you were like, I didn't expect to feel that way, or I didn't expect to be discouraged that way, or I didn't expect to care about that thing, right? Man, y'all, here's the thing. Here's what I care about. I care deeply about you having a passion for what you're doing in your life and for you living with purpose. And I think sometimes we get so stuck in the mundane, we become discouraged, we become unmotivated. We don't know what to do next because we're forgetting what we're doing and why. And the biggest thing is we forget why. And we lose that sense of passion. And I don't know if like that resonates with you, but you guys it's one of those nights where it's just going to be my heart. And I hope that you are ready for that. And I hope that that is something that I just pray that it's something that resonates with you, because I cannot stand it when we choose to sit in our averageness and in our mediocrity and we do not rise to fight for things worth fighting for. I can't stand it. It makes me crazy. And I would say sometimes it makes me a bad friend and sometimes it makes me a bad family member, because I want more from people, not because I don't think that we should be happy and I don't think we should be content, but I want more from people because I think that we are called to be more. I think that we are called to do more. I think we are called to take steps towards a better life with more purpose. And if I guess I just really need to know, like, if that's where you're at. If you've ever thought, yeah, like, I don't want to be in that place. I don't want to sit in averageness. And I have this desire and this passion and this yearning for something else, something bigger. Like, I'd love to know if that's you. Like, if you feel like, yep, totally feel that. First of all, you're not alone. Not at all. And this is not a frustration with being content, or not content. What's the word? Like, this is a frustration with complacency. I have this thing about complacency, whether it's in your business, whether it's in your life, whether it's in your motherhood, whether it's in your marriage. I don't think that complacency has a place in your life. I think that you were created for more. I think that you were created for growth, and I think that you were created for change. And if you are in that season where you feel like, I want more, I feel like I'm called to do more, but I do not know what that is, or I do not know how to do it. Those are all the things we're going to talk about tonight. So, I also would really love for this to be a conversation tonight. We're going to talk about growth and what that looks like. What does it look like to grow, and how does that make move the needle in your business, in your life, in your finances? How does your growth and your investment in your growth start to change things for you? That's what I really want to know. And that's what I really want. Well, that's what I want to share with you. And it's what I want you to know. Talk to me a minute, babe, about when you think about like the term personal growth, like what does that look like, feel like?
What I was going to ask you is, so, and you might have covered this while I was putting kids down, because, you know, someone's got to do it. Second time
I heard you. You're doing it.
When do you think for us, either individually or as a couple, we started to break away from, because, well, before I ask that, so here's the deal, guys, like, we live in a world that tells us you're supposed to be an 8 to 5. You're supposed to be at every kid's practice for every sport. You're supposed to be the PTA mom. You're supposed to, right? Like, we live in this world of comparison where whether it's called on you or whether you just, you know, bring it out in yourself because you're comparing yourself to other people online, that we feel like we have to be everything for everybody. And while doing it, we have to look perfect in doing all of it. Otherwise, we're a failure, right? Yeah. So what ends up happening, we get so spread out day to day that we can't do anything really well, because you can't, there's only so much. Someone much wiser than me told me that every day's a pie and you've got an X amount of slices, and who are you going to give those slices to? And the more you spread that out, the more you try to give to everybody gets less of you. And so you can't do anything really, really well. So when do you think for us, or for you or me or individually, that we started to realize, like, okay, we can't be everything for everybody, and not just in business, but personally in our relationships with our family, whatever it might look like? You are really about to start that?
Yeah, it's like making me emotional. I don't know. I feel like.
What were you going to say?
When did I feel like we decided like we can't be everything for everybody? Is that what your question was?
I mean, essentially, yeah. But that can mean so many different things, obviously.
Yeah. It's so hard because I think part of our decision to be here, even at this table, was a decision to say we can't be everything for everybody, and that other people have to rise to the occasion. And even as I'm watching it all play out, it doesn't mean it's easy. I realize that's me speaking very vaguely, but I don't know.
What she's trying to say is, I mean, it's constantly evolving, right? So
also, it's constantly a comparison game.
For sure.
Like,
but once you understand that, it's so much easier to name it.
Yeah.
And make it captive and make it what it is, right?
Yeah.
So when we were talking today about personal growth, initially when we started talking about personal growth, it was, oh yeah, well, don't you remember 5 or 6 years ago, we started really reading and really getting outside of ourselves. And I actually had a conversation with Brandon, and he might be watching earlier today, about, I think for so much of our lives, we're in this mold, right? Like, you're in school growing up and you're doing what you're told, right? You're doing what you're told, doing what you're told, doing what you're told. So basically your existence is the regurgitating of other people's knowledge and information that they're giving you. Well, there comes a point in your life, some people early on, some people really late on, where they start to think for themselves, start to read, whoa.
Sorry about that. I got ropes.
Start to read, you know, personal development books and leadership books and books that really make you think and start to develop, not only mentally, but also sometimes physically. And in that development, you start to kind of figure out who you are.
Yeah.
Because so many of us fit this mold that doesn't feel natural for so long, because it was, you know, being a product of our surroundings. And so I think for us, and kind of on different terms in different ways, but honestly, 5, 6, 7 years ago, we started to kind of find our own path. And it wasn't necessarily on the same trajectory. We had to work really hard to keep it that way. But I think a lot of it was, we were reading a lot. We really dove into God's word heavy. We started reading commentaries and all of these things, which essentially is just regurgitated information from other people. But when you read it from all these different angles and play devil's advocate, even against your own opinion sometimes, you really start to truly learn and grow in that. And through that becomes, you become more comfortable with who you are.
Yeah.
And then through that, the comparison games gets less and less and less.
Yeah. Okay. Yes and no. Because I will say, I feel like more than ever, I know that the steps that we're taking in growing our business, but also in sharing the things that we've learned and being passionate about that we're doing that in the right way more than we ever have. And I feel really confident in that, but it doesn't mean that I don't deal with the comparison game. It doesn't mean that I don't deal with doubt. It doesn't mean that I don't deal with all of the questions of like, but this is the harder way to do things, or this is it's not the easy and complacent way. It's kind of like I told my therapist today that what would be easy? It would be easy to sit on the couch and eat mac and cheese and like live out what we've built in our business and like let it be and do an okay job at it. It would be easy. And we could do it and no one would fault us for it. And no one would say like, if we would still do our job, but like.
Well, not just in our business, but then, personal lives, more selfish and,
like
instead of having weekly planning meetings on figuring out how we can help other people as much as we can, it would be weekly meetings to plan out the things we want to do. I don't know.
I think there's this pull constantly that you have to fight to decide that you are going to continue to grow. I think that's what it is, and this is the battle that I'm battling is, you know what? The easy road is complacency. The easy road is average, but I do not feel like that's what I'm called to, and I do not feel like that's what you're called to. And I feel like that's why you're here, because you know as much as I do that there is more in you. There's something calling to you and calling out of you to utilize and use the gifts and talents that you've been given. And I don't want to sit on the sidelines. I don't want to sit and watch other people kill it because I'm scared. I don't want to sit and watch other people knock it out of the park because what if I strike out? I don't want to sit on the sidelines out of fear. And I don't think you do either.
Well, it's not even just that. It's also, you don't want to sit back when you really feel like God's made you for something.
Yeah.
And you're watching other people, because when you say, I know what you mean, but when you say hit it out of the park or all that, like it has this like,
oh yeah, like this
connotation of it. It must be success or something. It's not even that.
It's just.
And for you guys that know her, you know that. But when we sit there and we see these people, Allie walked into a coffee shop, or didn't walk in. She was already in this coffee shop, and she was actually going to have a meeting with a girl that kind of helps watch our kids and all of this. And she was waiting for Allie. Allie was in another one-on-one, and she walked over to meet with her. And she walked up behind her, and she said, I saw on her computer, it said chapter 1, and she had started to write. And Allie goes, what are you doing? And she goes, oh, nothing. And she goes, no, really, what are you doing? And then, well, I'll finish telling you as I started. But she said, well, I just really feel, she's 19 years old, y'all. Now, granted, she's wise beyond her years. Like, she's incredible. But she was like, I don't know. I just really feel like girls my age and younger don't, in the current world we live in with all this, like, feminism pulling you one way and the Me Too movement and conservatism, all of these things. I don't feel like girls really know what they're supposed to be and what they're called to be and how we have a role to play as leaders, but also as followers. And she just kind of laid all this out. And Allie was like, it almost broke me. Here's this 19-year-old girl that tells us all the time she just doesn't know what she's doing in life, and she thinks she wants to do this or thinks she wants to do this, and yet she has that in her. And Allie's like, that's what you need to be doing. Like, let's figure out how we can help make you do that, if that's really what you feel God's putting in your life. So you see that out of a 19-year-old girl, and us as, almost 40, looks 25 over here. And there's still sometimes we're like, I feel like God does want us to do that, but I just don't know. Like, we still have doubts and hesitations. And so it just really kind of gut checks you sometimes. You see other people leaning into what they feel like they're supposed to do, and they do it great. And I just want to look back. I was talking to someone today about how they've done all these palliative care studies with people that are literally dying, and they ask them what they would have done different. And it never has anything to do with monetary things, with money, with anything like that. It always has to do with the effect they would have had on the world, spending time with their immediate family, you know, enjoying things more, all of those things. It never has to do with how much money they made, how many things they purchased, how successful they were. None of that ever matters. And so we just try to look at things through the lens of, is this the person when I'm on my deathbed and I'm looking back, is that the person that I want to be able to look back on and be like, I'm glad I did that because that's what I was called to do. So
fear is just self-preservation. And I think it's one of those things that we have to tell ourselves over and over again. Like, if I am too scared to step into the thing, one, it's just me trying to self-preserve. Because we have this thought that if we protect ourselves, right, from failure, because somehow we think that that is death, right? It's not. If we protect ourselves from failure, then we can't get hurt. But the reality is, some of you have something so deep in your soul that you know you're supposed to do that it will literally kill you from the inside out if you don't step into it. More so than the fear, more so than that self-preservation. We were talking about personal growth. This is just where
this is a part of the journey in personal growth.
This is just where I am. Like, in this place of being stretched and pressed and pushed. And honestly, sometimes I think when, especially if you're a Christian and you feel called to something, there's seasons where, and this is me because I'm very stubborn, where I put my heels in the ground. I'm like,
even if you're not a Christian, I feel like there's people that feel led in certain areas in their lives and they don't want to step into it because of fear. Because of fear. And sometimes because of stubbornness. Like, for me, it's a lot of times it's stubbornness, like me putting my heels in the ground saying, I don't want to. I don't want to. I think that'll be hard, and I think that'll be messy. And for me, the Lord keeps pushing me until I have to take a step, until I lose my balance forward, right? That we're always forward moving. And I think that's one thing that's so vitally important, that when you look at your life, you look at your business, your motherhood, whatever it is, that you can say, am I forward moving or am I standing still? Because when you're standing still is when growth has stopped. And what good are you doing at that point for anybody, really? One of the questions I ask leaders all the time, especially when they come to me in a coaching call or whatever and say, like, I don't know what to do now. I don't know where to go. This is what I'm struggling with. One of my very first questions is always, what are you learning right now? How are you growing right now? And I think it's an incredibly important question. I think that we get to a point in our lives where sometimes we think, well, I did it. Like, I did the things. Like, I went to school. I got my degree. Like I did the things. So why do I have to continue to step into this growth thing? And I think the question becomes, how can you not? If you are standing still, if you feel stuck, if you feel like I do not know which steps to take next, my question to you always will be, what are you learning about? How are you growing? Where are you changing? Because we're either moving forward or backwards. And if you're standing still, you might as well be going backwards. So personal growth is that journey towards saying, sometimes I can't see the end of it. Sometimes I don't know exactly where we're going, but I'm taking steps forward, right? That is what it looks like to grow personally. I think the quote that I used today to tease this message was from John Maxwell. And it says something to the effect of, I'm not going to be able to remember it now. What was it?
I don't know the quote I used today from John Maxwell. Growth. It was something about growth and success, but one of the main lines in it is that when you see people pulling away from the pack, when you see people rising, it's always because of personal growth. And so the question becomes, how are you growing? And if you look up personal growth, there are a gazillion quotes out there. And here's what I have found to be true when it comes to business in general. When I look at our business and I look at the way we've sustained it and the way we have continued forward movement is the fact that we committed ourselves to growing personally.
Mm-hmm.
And the question becomes, what does that mean? No.
Good.
What does personal growth look like? What does it look like in your life? The problem is that for so many people, it's the very first thing to go when time becomes overwhelming.
Right.
When you feel like I don't have time, I don't have margin, I don't have capacity, your personal growth suffers first.
Well, and honestly, in the world we live in, because as moms, which most of you are moms, and I would even just say family-oriented people in general, personal development isn't on the cool list of things that you need to be working on.
Yeah, right.
So you need to feed kids and wipe butts and get them to school dressed where they don't look like little homeless people.
Be a taxi.
Yeah, and get them bathed and get them fed, which happens 3 times a day. Good Lord, whoever knew kids have to eat. And then by the time all that stuff's done, you're so exhausted. Picking up a book or listening to a podcast or reading your Bible, those things don't always happen. And so a lot of it's priorities, don't you think?
Yeah.
I was going to let you then sing.
Oh, you were like throwing it to me.
Throwing it to you. We need to practice this. But really, so we've talked about where kind of we're at. We've talked about how it's a journey and how it's never ending, and it's never, I mean, honestly, guys, it only gets harder, if that makes any sense. Don't be scared. Lean in. But let's start at the beginning.
It only gets harder and more fruitful, right?
Absolutely. It becomes more and more worth it.
What beginning are we starting at?
Well, let's start at the beginning where, okay, let's say somebody's saying fear is taking over. Okay. There are things I want to step into that I haven't been. I've seen multiple people say stuff about that. So if that is the case, let's do this like a podcast. I'm interviewing you.
Oh,
If that's the case, where should they start?
If they have something they feel called to do, or there's something they want to grow, is that what you're saying to me?
You want me to answer my question?
Clarify the question, or maybe answer your question.
We'll tell where it changed for us, which I kind of started telling at the beginning, and then Allie went on one of her, passionate, because she's on fire, people. And what's funny is she said,
like it's not even that I'm on fire or that I'm like super clear. It's that I just can't help but like tell you all the things in my brain right now.
I don't even know them all. Like they're all over the place, but
it's true.
So I'll talk about my personal like turning point. And I was talking to my dad about this the other day. So there's this book, and we used to talk about it. We've talked about this book multiple times. Love Does.
Oh, I'm like, tell me what it is.
I'll tell you if we've talked about it. And you guys have all probably heard me talk about this book, but there's a book called Love Does by a guy named Bob Goff, who was, can I say ballsy? Who was ballsy enough, knowing it was going to be a good book, he put his cell phone number, his actual personal cell phone number on the back cover of the book and said, if you ever want to talk, if you're ever having a hard time, you ever need advice, whatever, call me. I've called multiple times. It usually goes to voicemail. I have heard stories and know people that have called him and answered, but now he's had 2 bestsellers. He probably gets 1 billion calls a day. But he still put his number on the second book, and there are still people that call, and when he says he will pick up if he can, but he's a busy man. But it put into perspective, him and I are very similar. I'm a adventurer. I want to, sell everything and move to a third world country and build a hut and help people. And like, I just have all these weird, crazy ideas. And he's a lot like that. He's an adventurer, and he's done some things in his life that are awe-inspiring, incredible. But the coolest thing about it, he leads his life in a way where he lets love lead the way constantly. So he actually carries medals around in his pocket. These little bitty cheap, 50-cent little medals that you can pin on people that just say you're wonderful, you're great, you're loved, whatever. And he just hands them out constantly to people just to make them feel special. Anytime he goes to any event or anything, he brings balloons. He goes to funerals with balloons because he said no one can't smile when they see a balloon. So I just bring balloons everywhere. I mean, he just does all this crazy stuff that you're like, this guy can't be real. He's real. You can verify it online. But starting your journey, going down the path that you feel called to do, a lot of it is reading and listening and learning and trying to go places that maybe stretch you a little bit. But if there's something that interests you or there's people that you look up to, lean into that and see what inspires them, see what they read, see what they've written, and just start to develop yourself. Because ultimately, here's the thing. You can't take others where you haven't been. You're not going to be able to lead your family in ways that you haven't been. You're not going to be able to lead others in places that you haven't been. And so personal growth, although in a busy world, a family-oriented world, a business-oriented world we live in, if you're not personally developing, you can't develop other people. Your ceiling and the ceiling you can bring people into is only going to go as high as you. So, and I know that's not the most popular thing. I was talking to, he might be watching right now. I told him about this, but a buddy of mine that I haven't talked to in, 7 or 8 years probably, we randomly kind of reconnected today, and we talked a little bit, and we were just talking about how, my mind just went blank. Anyway, we were talking about how you can't take people past the point that you are. And so you constantly have to be learning and constantly have to be developing. And ultimately, we have a rule in our house. Our kids are only allowed to do one thing at a time. So this is crazy in the world we live in. But if our kids want to do wrestling and basketball and baseball and volleyball and all, they have to pick one, because we value our time at home very highly. And I don't know anyone outside of the 0.1% of people that are maybe playing in the major leagues that would say something like, well, because my parents let me play 5 sports was why I became successful. Well, there's sacrifice for all of that. And so we're that weird family that when our kid wants to do something, we let them. But if they want to do something else, then we say, okay, which one do you want to do more? And you're going to do that, because we really value our time here, sitting around this table, having conversation at dinner. Our 9-year-old still says his favorite thing in the world is when we sit down to dinner every night. And I don't want to lose that, because we want to be like the world and let our kids be gone every single night of the week at practices and games and tournaments and all the stuff. So that's just a rule that we've set, and that's something we're going to stick with. Now, granted, most of our kids are younger. As they get older, we might have to revisit that if we have a kid that's really talented at 2 things, but that's definitely something that we believe right now and that we're going to keep doing as long as it works.
It's one of those like wrecking days
Today,
where I feel wrecked. Like
you did. In a good way.
Like in a good way, and also in a frustrating, like, growth feels hard way. And growth is hard. And I think when we step into growth and commit to growth, that things begin to change. But also we face resistance. And all of those things are good and hard and beautiful. But I was thinking today about something. You said, we're those people. I know.
No, keep going.
Sentences are not forming. I know. Praise God, you're here.
Faster. If you've ever watched Friends, get there faster.
It's probably going to therapy day. My therapist today told me that we have 3 enemies every day: the world, our flesh, and the devil. And you know what? The world, which you could also define as our culture, it's the hardest one for me. Like, it's the one that I keep getting stuck in, that I keep saying, but look at somebody else. Like, the comparison game. Look, I feel like I have grown so much and have become much more confident in who I am and what I feel called to do. It does not mean that I am immune to it. It doesn't mean that I don't notice or I don't see things. It doesn't mean that I'm not still constantly playing the comparison game. And it's not right, but it has to be a constant decision to say, I don't care about that, because I care about this other thing more.
In her defense, it's so different now, though, than what it was 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. Your comparison game.
Yeah.
So
no, it is.
It's still a comparison game, but here's how.
4 or 5 years ago, this would have hurt.
But here's the thing. So, when you said that today, when you told me what she said about the world, our flesh, and the devil, I agree with that. But what we believe is that the devil can be in all of those things, and he is in all of those things. And so what's different now, the comparison game we used to get hung up with was, oh, look how cute their house is, and look how cute their kids are, and look how cute their, business flyers are, and look how, you know, yada, 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 all these material things, right? Or, you know, family and things that, you know, photoshopped and blah, blah, blah. The highlight reels, right? That stuff used to hang us up. That stuff, I don't even think phases us anymore. I think the things that hang us up now are when there's a personal struggle that we're trying to battle. Like if it's something that Allie's like, okay, I feel like I'm supposed to be helping in this and helping in this and helping in this and helping in this.
Yeah.
But I've got to figure out which one I need to give more time to. Yeah. And then we see somebody that's helping in maybe all of those things or multiple things and doing it seemingly really well. That's when the comparison game starts. So it's not this like, because you make yourself sound like super selfish or something. I don't see that at all. Like I see it as, it's almost more my struggle or our struggle constantly is sometimes I struggle for her time because she's giving her time to so many things, a lot of which make us no money. They don't, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that it's not that she's doing all these things to try to hustle or whatever, because we don't love that word, but she's doing things like, well, babe, I feel like I'm supposed to be talking to these people, pouring into these people, or setting this up, or, you know, writing this leadership guide, or doing whatever it might be. And those are all really good things in and of themselves. But sometimes you have to figure out the one or two things that you really feel like you're called to do and lean into those. Because sometimes we get stretched so thin, all of us as people, trying to lead in all these different ways that we feel called. And sometimes I honestly think, I had an argument about this with somebody sometime, or at one point, but I honestly think sometimes the devil can lead you into something that is good to keep you from something that's great. You know what I mean? Is that wrecking you right now?
Yes.
But that's the thing sometimes, and this is like, let me finish this thought if y'all are going, that's ridiculous. So sometimes I think a door opens and we're like, that's a door that we're supposed to walk through. That must be God. He's opening that door. There's good on the other side of it. We walk through it without even thinking about it sometimes because it seems good. And it seems like everything's right. But it kept you from walking through something else that might have been harder, but might have been exactly what you were supposed to walk through. And as Christians, we get so sometimes wrapped up in this, you know, well, if God shuts a door, he's going to open a window. And if God opens that door, by God, I'm going to walk through it. He says, I stand at the door and knock. All you got to do is open and I will come in. And there's all these like cliche things that we've always gotten so hung up on in our Christian culture. But honestly, sometimes I think as doors open and opportunities present themselves, you truly, through prayer and petition, have to really mirror those things against what God's blessed you with in your life and what you feel called to do. And that's sometimes we walk into things that we feel are God, but we kind of sometimes just step out. And I do honestly believe that when you step in faith, God can bless that. But I still believe that sometimes there was something better for you. You just maybe had to look a little bit harder. And I'm sorry, I'm all snotty if I keep doing that. But you going to bed? I love you, girl. We'll come up and kiss you when we're done. That's our oldest one. She's the only one that would kind of do her own thing in the evenings on Tuesday nights. You okay, babe? We haven't seen each other a ton today because she was out running around doing some one-on-ones and doing all that. We saw each other for about 30 minutes at dinner with the kiddos, and we haven't really even gotten to talk about this. So
I just feel like, you know, when you stand, I think about that, you know, that poem we all had to memorize in high school, Two Roads Diverged in the Wood. I used to know the whole thing, and I took the one less traveled on or whatever. See, I can't even say it anymore. Do you ever feel like you're at that place where here you are, you're at the crossroads, you're going to go left or right, you're going to go the easy way, or you're going to go the hard way. Which one's it going to be? And I just feel a little wrecked because I feel like I'm standing there. I said today, I feel like I'm standing on a cliff. And honestly, maybe the cliff is like the coolest, like jump into the ocean ever, not like the kind where you die. Like it's not that kind of cliff.
Yeah, I was about to say, don't go. But if there's water underneath you, like 10 feet, you're dead.
Maybe it's that kind of like risky, life-giving, that kind of thing. Where I just need the push. I just feel like I'm in that season of wrecking. And honestly, I want to live my life in a way where I feel like I am constantly being asked to obey or pushed into bigger things. Like, I think about that, you know, when you're 80, that whole, like, what do you want on your, where do you want to be? Like, what do you want to be doing or thinking about? I want to be thinking about the stories of all the times that we did something crazy, or we did something that people would have said, why would you do that? Or what were you thinking? Or like bold living. I want to have these stories to tell my great grandbabies that were like, y'all are freaking awesome. That's what I like. I want them to look at us and be like, I want to be like you one day, you know, like, because we chose to be bold, because we chose to step out of average, because we chose to not be complacent. I think that's honestly the enemy's biggest weapon is complacency, averageness, mediocrity, busyness. That's a thing, right?
Yeah.
Are you so busy that you can't walk towards the one thing you feel called to? You can't build the one thing that you feel called to build. You can't do the one thing that you feel called to do. Is that where you're at? Because I think that's where the enemy wants you. Right in the middle of, we're good. We're busy. Right? It's just not where I want to be. Did you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, so, I mean, we're always, when we,
I'm going to read them something.
Plan to get on here and talk to you. You going to read them all? Oh, gosh, I knew you were about to do that. It's good. Good. Wait for it.
Can't even not read it to them.
So when we sit down and plan, and we've done this for years now, when we sit down to plan what we're going to talk about, we always have, you know, all of your all's lives in mind, your business in mind, and our lives, and, you know, how businesses fit in that and how we've done it. One thing I would ask you guys to just kind of challenge yourself in is the only reason, honestly, that we've ever seen people fail in this business, when it was a choice. There's obviously other reasons. People, you know, fall on hard times, people get sick, disease happens. But when people fail in this business, it's because they chose to do small things now that are easy versus big things that are hard that are going to pay off long term. So anytime we sit down and have a coaching conversation or have a conversation with somebody, trying to get them to elevate themselves and maybe get outside their comfort zone and work harder or work smarter, when we start to hear over and over again the excuses of, well, I'm too busy for that, or I just don't have time for that, or what they're really saying is my priorities aren't very good, or, you know, I'm elevating things that shouldn't be elevated above my family's future, whatever it might be. And so what you guys need to look at is in the areas of your life that are dragging you down or are causing you to be stressed or are just taking from your life instead of feeding you, you need to really start to figure out how to wean those things out, or how to trim them back, or how to make them fruitful. I had a conversation the other day with somebody that literally plays taxi driver 7 days a week for their 3 kids, to all the games and all the dance recitals and all the practices and all the stuff. And she said she probably sits in her car 4 hours a day on average doing all the running around. And she was like, it's killing me. And I said, why do you do it? And she said, well, I have to, right? Like my kids do all this stuff. And I said, okay, don't pull the plug completely and tell your kids they have to get out of everything, but you can start trimming back, because there's probably things your kids don't love. Well, my daughters don't love dance anymore, but they have to do it. We bought all the uniforms. No, they don't. Like, if it's draining you, you already drained your bank account. Don't drain your personal emotional tank also, because you're tired of taking them 4 days a week. But just start to look at the things that drain you, that take from you, that aren't feeding you. And it's okay to trim those back. And I promise you, the better person that it makes you makes everybody around you better. And then as you start to look at those things, and as you start to get more margin and more time, then start to feed into the things that are feeding your dreams. Allie talked a couple weeks ago about dreams. She laid a bunch of stuff out on how you can start to set those dreams. Once you start to look into what you truly are dreaming for you and for your husband, your marriage, your family, all of those things, those are the things that you need to be pushing toward. And if driving your daughters to dance practice 4 nights a week that you hate going to and they hate going to, and you have to force them because you spent $400 on outfits, cut the cord. Like, nobody's getting anything out of that. And so whatever it is, if it's taking from your family, just cut it off. and just see the fruit of it. It might be a little painful at first. Like Allie said earlier, there's pain in growth. There's a reason they call growing pains pain. However, you know what's way more painful than growing pains? We all heard of geishas. So geishas, it was an old Japanese practice. The whole thought behind it was they thought that women saying little was beauty. So they would actually have these little shoes and they would bind their feet in these shoes. And they thought beauty, small feet equal beauty. And so these women for their entire lives were in extreme pain because they would bind their feet in these tiny shoes. So by taking away growth that would have caused pain for a very short time, they added pain for the rest of their life. So even though growth hurts, not growing is going to hurt you and hurt all the people around you so much more and for your entire life. And then you're going to be those people that they're surveying saying, what would you have done different? And you're going to have a laundry list of things because you chose not to step into the things that maybe would have made you grow and maybe would have hurt for a little while. But I promise you, if you start trimming out the things that are draining you, draining your family, and then start taking some personal time for yourself to develop, read some good books, listen to some uplifting podcasts, attend church online every now and then with your family. If you don't attend, do something, but do things that are feeding you. Journal, but do things that feed you and replace those time sucks for things that feed you. And I promise it'll do nothing but good. And it might hurt when you're going through a season like she or we are walking through right now, but I promise out of that growth, there's so much more life.
Can I give an exact example of why I feel all like?
I mean, I don't fully know that I know what it is. I feel like you should run it by me first.
I was asking you. I thought I told you earlier. I want to read you something, though.
This is something that a friend of ours wrote the other day. She's awesome.
So, my friend / I hired her to help me with my business, and she's amazing. She's the one that always tells me, like, we're going to leave room for the Holy Spirit. Okay. She actually came to our last marriage, and her and her husband, and posted on social media. Her name's Molly. Hi, Molly. And she kind of talked about how last week was difficult, and she thinks it was difficult because they were stepping into something. They went to this incredible marriage retreat, and they stepped into this hard thing of like pushing and fighting for good stuff. Anyways, and so she was feeling that opposition, and she said, I choose the hard because I know it leads to greatness, which go on, that'll preach. And that's what I think we get so wrapped up in is we think, or we have this false idea that greatness is easy, or that success is not fought for, or that we look on and see something that is this thing that's done and beautiful and accomplished, but we didn't see the pain and the strife to get there. I choose the hard because I know it leads to greatness. And I can't agree with that more. And then she said, I have to remind myself of this. And this is a quote from an unknown missionary.
So when you tell them this, tell them like you told me today.
Read it to you like I read it to them.
Read it to them like
I read it to you. All right. The decision has been made. I am a disciple of his, and I won't look back, let up, slow down, back away, or be still.
Start over.
Okay.
When you read it to me, you go, the decision has been made. And then you rolled into it. Do it like that. Do it like you are preaching it.
The decision has been made. I'm a disciple of his, and I won't look back. Let up, slow down, back away, or be still. My past is redeemed. My present makes sense. My future is secure. I'm done and finished with low living, sight walking, small planning, smooth knees, colorless dreams, tamed visions, mundane talking, cheap living, and dwarfed goals. My face is set. My gait is fast. My goal is heaven. My road may be narrow, my way rough, my companions few, but my guide is reliable and my mission is clear. I will not be bought, compromised, detoured, lured away, turned back, deluded, or delayed. I will not flinch in the face of sacrifice or hesitate in the presence of the adversary. I will not negotiate at the table of the enemy, ponder at the pool of popularity, or meander in the maze of mediocrity. I won't give up, shut up, or let up until I have stayed up, stored up, prayed up, paid up, and preached up for the cause of Christ. I am a disciple of Jesus. I must give until I drop, preach until all I know, and work until he comes. And when he does come for his own, he'll have no problems recognizing me. I can't even.
When she read me that,
I can't.
Is Molly watching right now? Molly, if you're watching, drop a comment so people can like you and follow you.
Oh, it's so good.
I think we'll just.
I will not be bought, compromised, detoured, lured away, turned back, diluted, or delayed. I will not flinch in the face of sacrifice or hesitate in the presence of the adversary. I will not negotiate at the table of the enemy.
Come on.
Ponder at the pool of popularity or meander in the maze of mediocrity. Oh, it's so good.
So good. When she read me that, so now granted, that's a quote. It's a quote that Molly put on there. Now, she wrote some incredible stuff before it as well, but we won't take credit for that. I know Molly wouldn't take credit for that. But how good is that? When Allie read that to me, I mean, I was sitting there like I was at a Southern Baptist convention going, come on, come on. Like it was.
Just save me again.
God, it's so good. So I can't get too crazy because my head will explode.
Even if you are not a Christ follower, if you're not a believer, like that's not your thing.
Well, that's the thing. Even take the Jesus out of that
take
comment.
Take Jesus out of it, and it like just go
which
on.
Is like,
no, I know.
I'm not saying, I know. But what we're saying is, you can still relate to that, right?
You can still relate. Like, don't back down. Don't turn back. Ooh.
Come on. But guys, ultimately, here's the thing, and we want to respect your all's time. We got a couple minutes left, but personal development is going to be a personal journey for you. We didn't have someone walking us through it. You're not going to have someone walk you through it. It's going to have.
Today.
This isn't at all what we kind of talked this morning before we, went our separate ways for the day. But ultimately, here's the thing with personal development. Your journey is going to be unique to you. And whether you're 20 years old or 70 years old watching this, there's things that you don't yet know. And there's things that you haven't yet leaned all the way into that you probably need to. And so whatever it is in your life right now, wherever you feel pulled, wherever you feel like God's saying, you know what, you should probably do more of this or commit less to this or say no more or say yes more or whatever it might be. Those decisions are really hard. And sometimes those are the things that you need somebody around you saying, yes, you should do that, or no, maybe you shouldn't do that. And so our prayer for you constantly is that you guys will just have the right people around you to help you make those decisions. I know in our life, before we really started to feel like we were able to stand on our own feet and really make the decisions that we know is best for our family and for God's kingdom and our legacy and all those things, was having the right people around you. I read a quote the other day that said something about, you can only carry as much as the people around you help you hold. And that's ultimately so true. Individually, we are all so weak, but with people around you, we are so strong, and we all lift each other up. So it's not that taking strength from someone else is draining them, but we're actually strengthening the people around us when we allow them to speak into our lives. So I just hope that you guys have that. If you don't have that, continually seek that out. When you find someone that gives life, we talk all the time about cut out the people that are draining you, cut out the people that are bringing you down, and make it a point to try to spend more time with the people that when you walk away from a conversation with them, you feel better about yourself. They speak life into you, not death. And really just make a conscious decision to be around those people more. And wherever that might be, it might be a mom's group or a church group or whatever it might be. But when you go, you feel energized and you feel like people really care. Seek those places out. And if you don't have any of those places, start to look, because ultimately this life is way too much for any of us to handle alone. And hopefully you have some of that in your marriage, if you're married. If you don't, I pray that you find that in a spouse. But ultimately you need that all around you. So you can only be as strong as the people around you are going to help you carry the load. And when it comes to personal development, start to dive into the things. I mean, if there's subjects that you love, I love history. I hated history when I was in school. I find myself now reading and researching more about history than I have ever in my life, but I love it. It's taught me so much. If there's things that you love, You don't have to go back to school or have a college degree to know about those things. Get online, look, read, get books at the library, go to Mardell's, buy books, go to Barnes and Noble, go wherever, get online and just we listen to books. We listen to tons of Audible books. Just start to really lean into that stuff, and don't feel selfish when your friends that are all wanting you to watch whatever the newest season of Bachelor is or Bachelorette, and they want you to come over to their house. Say, you know what? No, I'm going to spend that 2 hours reading something that I've been interested in or developing. Like, it's okay to be selfish to a point when it comes to your development, because like I said, you can only lift the others up around you as far as you can. So
this is me asking permission.
Oh yeah, I think that's fine.
That's okay.
Yeah. We've talked about it before. It's like,
I know.
This big secret.
No, it's not.
We're debuting it tonight.
No, it's not. Okay. I before we go, I want to I feel my awkwardness, my super emotionalness tonight is me deciding to make a decision. I think finally, I will post that entire thing that I just read. Everybody asked, I absolutely will. I know I need to read it framed in my house. I need to read it every day.
So good.
But the very first sentence of that said the decision is made. And what I love / hate about that is that the decision being made is a decision that we have to make not one time, but over and over and over again. And whatever you're doing in your life. We started doing these marriage retreats. Last year?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, last year.
Ryan came to me and said, I feel like we're supposed to invest in marriages. I looked at him and I said, I think that's dumb.
Well,
I don't feel qualified.
10-second backstory. What I was talking about when God starts opening doors, and sometimes, and it's good to have a spouse sometimes that questions you on things you feel called into, but some things started to happen in our life where we in no way were advertising or saying to anybody, hey, we feel like we're equipped to help people's marriages. And all of a sudden, out of random things happening, different married couples that we knew and loved, and some of which we didn't even know, but they started coming to us for advice. And I really just felt like God was saying, okay, y'all walked through some crap over the last 12, 13, 14 years. Now you're going to help other people do the same. She did not feel it. And depending on what translation you believe and what your background is in church, you do or don't believe that as a couple, because we are united as one, biblically, that if he affirms it through me, he should affirm it through her. And we won't have that argument or discussion tonight. But I really felt like we were supposed to do it. She didn't. And then what kind of happened?
Yeah.
It started to happen anyway. And then finally she was like, all right, fine. I'm not for it. But
so
whatever.
What's funny is it's actually somebody from church came to us and said, hey, would you guys mentor this couple? They're kind of walking through some things similar to what you guys walked through. Would you sit down with them? And I was like, no. Brian was like, yeah, absolutely. I was like,
no.
Yeah,
we will, babe. And she's like,
no, we will not.
We won't.
I am not equipped to do that. I have no idea what to say. No, I will not do that. And then we did. And
against her will.
Against my will.
Literally, she even knew it was happening. And if you know my wife, she's a prepared person. She doesn't go into any one-on-one or meeting or anything without at least knowing the situation. The day before they were coming, she was like, are they still coming tomorrow? I was like, yeah. And she's like, all right. And then the next day I was like, hey, they're going to be in an hour. All right, fine. I don't know why they're coming. This is ridiculous. And then they're pulling into our driveway. And I'm like, babe, they're here. And she's like, this is ridiculous. Where are we doing this? I was like, we can do it right here in your office or, wherever. She's like, this is fine, whatever. Okay. And then they walked in. And then she turned it on and she, I think the Holy Spirit got a hold of her. I was like, hey, you are called to do this. But then that's how much she fought it.
But then they left and Brian was like, that was amazing.
I was like, babe, you were speaking life into them. That was so good.
And I was like, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, that's exactly what she said. She was like, that was awful. I hated every bit of that.
Never doing it again.
And I was like, babe, you don't even know what you're saying right now.
So this is how us getting vested in people's marriages and helping people fight for marriages started, was me very much dragging my heels saying, not doing that. No. And then all these other things happened. And then we started doing these dream retreats for really our Cincy team. And then it turned into, it was really just about marriage and that's how Brian snuck. We're going to do, but it's going to be for couples, but it'll be about business. It was not about business. It was.
Well, here's what we truly believe. When you're married, this has to be the core thing.
Yeah.
So what we believe is God first, this second, our family's third, and our business falls in after that. Now, to be really successful and truly successful in business, this has to be good.
Yeah.
If this isn't good, that's the foundation. So if your relationship with God isn't good, this isn't good, your family isn't good, the business can't be good, like in the natural tier of things. So by developing and helping people in their marriages, we're ultimately helping their businesses. And we do coach on that in every one of our marriage retreats. And I don't think we've seen any of them yet where it hasn't helped their business.
Oh, yeah.
But that can't be what it's about.
Yeah. So anyways.
You can't teach a kid to read without teaching them basic letter sounds, right? Like that's the foundation to teach a kid to read. And in business is a complex thing. I mean, it's sales and recruiting and personal development and leadership development and all of these things. And if this isn't good, and I can't go home and talk to her about the good and bad of the day and us have a really good conversation and a life-giving, I'm building her up, she's building me up. How can I expect her to go build others up if at home we're breaking each other down? So we understand that fully. And so when people say, was it a marriage retreat or a business retreat? I'm like, yes. They go, what?
So anyways,
have one without the other.
So I really like, even in us kind of stepping into the dream retreat and doing those, and honestly, it is like just our heart cry and our favorite thing. And what I love the most about it is I can't take any credit for it. It was not something I set out to do. It was something I got pulled into. And I just think every time something happens, every time we have one, I just feel like God's just doing it. I try so hard to like, this is exactly what it's going to look like, and this is how it's going to be, and it never is. And it's always better.
Different than what we
thought.
Always
better
always
than
better,
what I thought. And so it's not scary to me anymore. It's just fun. It's just fun because it's one of those things that I just get to watch God show up in, and it's amazing. And so I was talking about this today, and then I started talking about this like deep-rooted desire in my heart. And like when I said I feel like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff, this is why. For years, since I was a child, I have wanted to write a book. I have this old journal. It's like Ralph Lauren journal. I don't know why it's Ralph Lauren. It's a Ralph Lauren journal with a teddy bear on the front of it. It's bizarre.
Because when we were in high school, Ralph Lauren was
the coolest. And except I think I wrote this in 8th grade, and it was like a bucket list of all these things I wanted to do before I die. One of the things on the list is run a mile in 5 minutes.
Good luck with that.
It's just not gonna happen. Like, where did
like the stupid things the world tells us we need to have on our list, right?
Like, where did I think that was a good goal?
Right.
Not. But there's all these other things like swim with dolphins, and I can't remember. There's a few that I remember, but one of the things near the very top of the list was write a book. And I think it's, we have gifts that we're given and things that we naturally excel at. And in school, I had teachers tell me, like, you're good at this. This is good. Look at what you're doing. And then I had a AP English teacher who really poured into me and just also made me write until I couldn't breathe in high school. And I found this love for words. And so I've always known that I had to write a book. And it's funny, years ago, when we started in direct sales, we hit the top of the company in 1 year, less than 1 year, right at like 3 days short of our 1 year anniversary. And have stayed there ever since and have been all the things, right? Whatever. And so I thought initially, like, I'm going to write a book about direct sales. It's going to be amazing. Like, and it makes me laugh now because I'm like, I don't, like, that's not the book I want to write. And then through, like, just our life and things that we stepped into, foster care and my BRCA journey and our mastectomy journey, and I say ours, it's my boobs, not yours, but they're yours.
I still have my original equipment.
Yeah. And all the things that we've walked through.
In our marriage and ministry.
Our marriage.
And
our kids, our business.
Stubborn kids that are just like their mom and dad. And so many things.
So many things. I feel like there has become this overarching theme that my job and my role in this heartbeat of my life is to fight for things worth fighting for. And I've known for a long time that I was supposed to write about this mastectomy journey. And I thought maybe, well, that's what it'll be about. Like, it'll be a small audience and it'll be this. And the longer things have gone on and the more things we've had to fight for, the more I've realized that God was writing a story in me that was about fighting for things worth fighting for. And it's a lot of things. There's a lot of things worth fighting for that we have had to physically fight for. And it's time. It's time for me to take a step into like doing what's next, writing a book proposal. I know nothing about that. That scares the crap out of me. I have no idea. Like, but I'll learn.
We'll figure it out.
But the reason I keep stalling out, the reason I keep putting my heels in the ground, it's because it's like a deep, deep desire in my heart. The reason I can have my hands so open about this marriage thing, about investing in people and the dream retreat, is because it was never mine. It wasn't my dream. It wasn't something that I always thought I would do, right? And so it's easy for me to give it back to the Lord. But this thing that I've like always known, that I just feel this like push to the edge of the cliff, like it is time. It feels really scary.
Why? Because you're afraid to fail?
I don't.
Like you've held it so close for so long that if you finally do it, it means
like, what if I can't?
It has to do it or not.
Yeah, you know? And that's that fight against culture and fight against popularity and fight against, because it's not about any of that. It's more about something that I just have to do. Like, it's so deep-seated, like that I have to do it now. And I think fear is a crappy thing that tries to hold us back from doing things that we're called to. And it's selfish. It is selfish.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you do something you felt for a long time you were supposed to do, there's no failure.
I know.
I mean, if 6 people buy it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but I'm saying you did it. Like, I know. The accomplishment isn't in the outcome as much as the journey in doing it, right?
And also, like, my goal, my bucket list was not like have a New York Times bestseller. My bucket list was write a book.
Just write a book. Yeah. That doesn't even have to be published. Like,
yeah.
Anyway, guys.
So what I was trying to say.
Well, and I'll add to what she said. So, and this is what I said to her when I first heard this. So, this girl that watches our kids that she caught starting to write a book today and all the things. In my head, we've had this conversation about her writing a book for a long time. There's 5 or 6 books inside of her that she's flirted with starting, and she knows that she is fully equipped to be able to do those things. And she's a great writer. If you haven't read her old blog stuff, and like, she's a really great writer. Take my word for it. I'm her husband, but I'm partial, but I promise. But when she's telling me the story today, she walks up on this 19-year-old girl who we love and who's incredible and wise beyond her years, starting to write a book in a coffee shop. And Allie goes, "What are you doing?" And she kind of hesitates, but then she says, "What? I just feel like God's put it on my heart to write this book." The minute Allie tells me that, and I was in my truck, Allie was driving to the grocery store, I almost stopped her and said, "Wow, that kind of hits you right in the face, doesn't it?" But I didn't, because that's what I was thinking. I didn't say it. And she's like, "Gosh, I love that girl. Like, to think that she's just stepping out like that." And so after Allie kind of completed her thought, I was like, man, out of the mouths of babes, right? Like, you've been talking about a book for 20 years. Like, what do you? And she's like, "Oh, I know. Like, maybe this is just kind of a kick I needed." So anyway, we say all of that to say, step into it. Whatever it is, wherever you're at in your personal growth journey, you might be at the very beginning. You might just be kind of figuring out what you feel like you're leaning toward, what you feel like you're called into. But I can promise you this, if there's something you really feel like is on your heart, even though earlier I said that whole thing about sometimes when a door opens, it's not the right one. Even when you walk in the right door, I truly feel like when you step out in an act of faith, when you selflessly do something to try to make the world a better place or try to make your world around you a better place, it's always going to be blessed. It might not always come to full fruition. You might not, on this side of heaven, ever see the fruit that came out of it. But I promise you, when you start to step into the things that you feel called to do, and you start to trim out all those things that really drain you, that really take from you, you'll see more and more good come of that. And the more that you lean into that, the more clear I think your vision gets on what you're called to do. And as you start to do all that stuff, it's easier to run your business because you have a lot clearer picture of how to run it, how to communicate with people. It's easier to lead your family because you have a clearer vision of where you're going, hence where you need to continue to coach them to go. You have a clearer vision of the people that you need to surround yourself with, because it needs to be the people that are helping you lean into that vision, not the people that aren't. So as you start to do that, all the other things start to line up. And this is a conversation we have constantly whenever, and this is another one of my prayers for you guys, that you have a spouse or a friend that challenges you in these ways. When I bring crazy ideas to Allie and say, hey, we need to do this, or we need to sell everything and move to this or whatever, she goes, is that fulfilling our purpose? And I do the same thing for her when she says, hey, I feel like we're supposed to do this big training and we're supposed to, and I go, hey, is that what we're supposed to be doing? Now, sometimes that question, the answer is yes. And then we lean into it and figure out how it works. But sometimes we have to eat humble pie and be like, no, like, I just watched this really great episode of Meat Eater, and he was in Alaska and he was hunting and it was beautiful and I want to build a cabin there and move. She's like, okay, well, that's not a part of our purpose right now, or not. I don't feel like God's telling me that. So whatever it is, guys, when you start to lean that direction and you start to surround yourself with the people that will fulfill that in you and start to speak that in you, then your personal development journey either gets started or fuels. And then from there, you just continue to go down the path you feel like you're supposed to be.
I don't think that the things in your heart, the things that you've dreamed about, the things that you secretly wished for, I don't think they're there on accident. I believe that you and I were created to do something that only we can do. And I also believe that the enemy will do anything he can to keep us from doing it. Resistance in this world is a thing that will never go away. And so we either have to choose to stand up and fight our battle every single day, to not back down, or to slink into mediocrity. And I, for one, I don't want to sit in it. And does that mean maybe I have to take a step off a cliff into something that feels scary? Yeah, it does. Does it mean that I live with more passion and more purpose and more fire for every single thing that I do? Yes, it means that too. And I want for you, I want fire. I want the kind of fire that burns, and that not only burns bright in you, but that lights up other fires, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. You can't just sit here and take what you have and not go turn it to somebody else, and not say and speak life into somebody else, and remind somebody else that not only is there a desire in your heart, but there's a desire in somebody else's heart that needs to be fanned into a flame. Sometimes for me, it's that flame, that fanning, comes in what would be the form of discouragement. It comes in what would seemingly look like, maybe that wasn't the best choice. But there also comes a time when you either decide to take the step and free fall and do the hard and scary and beautiful thing and do it all out, or you decide to pull back and slink back into average. I think you're called into greatness. I think you all are. Did you want to say something to me?
Well, real quick, is it Louise just said, when will I be able to be happy and find love? That's my issue. Here's the thing. The best advice I ever got in my teenage years about that was be the person that you want to find. And be the person that you want to fall in love with will fall in love with, if that makes any sense. So be the person that you're looking for. Start to live the life today that you want to find in another person. And I can promise you, on nobody's list will be the person wandering, not leaning into what they're called to do, not living a life of purpose. Start to do that. Oftentimes, when I found her, I was not looking for somebody. I'd just come out of a long-term relationship. The last thing in the world I needed to deal with was girl drama. God smacked me in the face with her, thank goodness. But sometimes we find things we aren't looking for because we're focused on other things. And then that's when God presents us with things that ultimately we want anyway. Second thing, Casey Markson said, be the person that when you wake up in the morning, the devil says, dang it, she's awake again.
Yep, that's right.
When I heard this quote, it was damn it. But it was, be the person that when you wake up, the devil goes, damn it.
Yep.
She's awake, or he's awake.
That's who I want to be.
So
go on it one more time.
We will end with Allie reading that one more time, and then we will definitely post it on the page so that way you can see it. But as soon as she's done with this, we're going to sign off because I said 30 minutes ago we were going to be respectful of y'all's time, and we've now gone 26 minutes over.
Here
so
you go. Ready?
Here you go.
And then I will type it for you later. Oh, so good.
Maybe less preachy and more enunciation.
You want to do it?
No, I don't read.
I don't read. The decision has been made. I'm a disciple of his, and I won't look back, let up, slow down, back away, or be still. My past is redeemed. My present makes sense. My future is secure. I'm done and